This next section is going to take a look at some formulas that we can use to calculate things such as area, volume, and temperature, starting with the most basic area problems, and that's rectangles. If I have a rectangle that's, say, 2 units tall and 3 units long, we know from experience that the way we get that total area is we would multiply the 2 that happens 3 times to give us that whole area. 2 times 3 equals 6. Often what you'll see is the formula for the area of a rectangle is length times width, or base times height, or some version of that. Basically, we're multiplying the dimensions together. So if I had a rectangle here that was 20 tall and 17 long, if I wanted to calculate that area, I just have to take that 20 high and multiply by the 17 to get a total area of 340. Rectangles are pretty straightforward. When we get to other shapes, it might take a little bit more creativity, but parallelograms are interesting because a parallelogram has 2 parallel sides across from 2 parallel sides. What's interesting about this parallelogram is if I were to cut off the edge here, and I were to move that edge over here, that piece is exactly the shape that would be needed to make this parallelogram into what is really a rectangle. Which means if it's the same as a rectangle just moved around, the area formula is still the same. It's going to be length times width. Although normally we don't call it length and width on a parallelogram. Instead, we call it base times height. So if I have, for example, this parallelogram, and its base is 21, the diagonal is 9, but the vertical distance from one base to another is 7, we're able to calculate the area of that rectangle using base times height. The key about base and height is the base and the height must meet each other at a right angle. Because the 9 doesn't meet anything at a right angle, we don't actually really care about the 9. Base times height, the base would be 21, the height would be 7, giving me a total area of 147 units. So rectangles, parallelograms, really the same thing. Base times height, length times width.